This video is brought to you by my new book, Cryptid and Other Stories of the Bizarre and Terrifying. If you're looking for something to give you some nightmares before bed, then feel free to check out the links in the description.
Bricklard.
Halo Infinite is something that I have been looking forward to, and not ashamed to admit, what sold it to me was the infamous gameplay showcase that led to it getting pushed back an entire year. For me, the extra time to wait was worth it, because I had balls of fun playing this game. Does that mean it was perfect? Hell no. In fact, there are a number of people who are disappointed by it, and rightfully so. Me though, I'm not one of them. In fact, I dare say Halo Infinite is something that should be on everyone's buy list, and if you would be so kind as to get your cousin to stop drooling over your shoulder, then I can tell you why. First things first though, I need to make one thing clear. You don't need to drop the $90 to play Halo Infinite's multiplayer. They're offered separate from one another, with the multiplayer being free to play. At the time of writing this review, I was not able to capture any footage of it, unfortunately. Every time I tried, when it was time to get started on this, I wasn't able to connect. But I was able to play it before getting my mitts on the single player portion of the game. Hence why you'll only be seeing footage from the campaign in this video. That out of the way, how was the multiplayer? It was great! It actually took me back to playing Halo 3's multiplayer on my 360 back in high school, with the core gameplay of the campaign translating really well to the multiplayer setup, with the new equipment adding some nice tactical options that do shake things up in small but very noticeable ways. This is of course accompanied by a thankfully decent number of maps, both for small intimate firefights and huge large-scale battles with vehicles that will remind veterans of victory laps in Blood Gulch. Its only real issue is its free-to-play nature. Thanks to this, 343 had to implement cosmetic monetization schemes and challenges to bring in extra cash and keep the multiplayer-only players engaged. Because of these, players tend to focus more on their daily or weekly challenges rather than, you know, the objective. So in team modes, it's more than possible to end up in a bad team. They care more about doing their dailies rather than capturing the flag, costing you the match, or forcing you to be the only person carrying the team. However, it doesn't look like the multiplayer is going in an awful overall direction. Recently, 343 reduced prices for cosmetics in the cash shop after player complaints. It's also been confirmed prior to launch so that the battle passes don't expire. This may have changed, but if it hasn't, then you can choose to do an older one over the latest, and it's more than possible for someone focusing on their challenges to not ruin a game if they have the skill and the attention capacity. So to me, the real biggest concern is less, are 343 and Microsoft going to use the multiplayer to milk whales for cash, and more, we need to wait and see if the multiplayer gets more attention and whether or not the single player receives any new content, paid or free. Now onto what I always play Halo for, the campaign. Boy howdy is this good. The wait has been worth it. However, I won't say the story is the best, but it is far from bad. Kicking off sometime after Halo 5 and Halo Wars 2, the UNSC has been devastated, and Master Chief has been left for dead drifting in space, only saved by a twist of fate, so now it's up to him and his allies to rally the shattered UNSC forces on the Zeta Halo ring, fight back against a new threat called the Banished who are trying to exploit its secrets, and discover what happened to Chief's longtime companion Cortana. Now, thanks to the time jump between the two prior games, it does feel like we've skipped over the events of a non-existent Halo 6, but that may be a result of me being out of the series for so long. The time skip aside, Infinite's story has been well realised, with enjoyable set pieces and some genuinely emotional moments that made me want to keep playing through, alongside the gameplay being so much fun. So it does feel in line with when the series was being helmed by Bungie. However, some characters are weaker than others. Chief and his pilot buddy bounce off of one another rather well in the few times they get to interact with each other, and I would have loved to have seen more scenes where they just get to interact. Whereas the new antagonist, Escharum, is rather overdramatic, and he feels more like an over-the-top preacher rather than a military leader. But as far as antagonists go, he is still entertaining. But then there's Weapon, the mysterious new AI that suspiciously looks very similar to Cortana. She's annoying. Okay, I get what they were going for here. She's meant to be a naive optimist that can get things done, but she's got emotional room to grow. What makes her annoying is her dialogue. It's just not right for the Halo series. See, she speaks like a character made for a Marvel movie. She's constantly trying to make humorous quips and one-liners, and most of the time these just fall flat. This kind of dialogue just does not belong here, and it makes it feel like a poorly thought out attempt to try to capture part of the Marvel audience. Her dialogue in particular was really in dire need of an editor, but I will admit she isn't insufferable, and at least she does have her moments. As for the gameplay itself, oh, it is good! 343 really didn't change much from the prior games at the core, and to me, that's a good thing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But in some areas, the pace has been sped up thanks to the inclusion of sprint, alternating between armor abilities, and 2 other additions that I will touch on now. The first is the open world. To me, Halo going open world is similar to when Arkham City went open world. There was cause for concern about whether or not it would work, concern though that could be ignored because there was already some open world DNA in the design. As for Infinite's open world, it actually works a treat. It's not some big open map made by the Clone Brush. Regions feel distinct from one another with their own character and nooks and crannies to explore for collectibles or multiplayer cosmetics. So it does feel like it's been handmade rather than just mass produced. Granted, that doesn't mean that if we get any more Halo games that I want all of them to be open world now. I don't want Halo to eventually follow Assassin's Creed or Ghost Recon's footsteps. But what I would like to see are some of the ideas and mechanics from this stick around alongside a traditional scripted experience. What's more is that it thankfully avoids being a generic open world. Rather than climbing towers, you're actually seizing control of forward operating bases, or FOBs as they're called in-game. And it's never not fun taking down evil aliens to get access to a fast travel and loadout point. The only real complaint I have with this though is that it shares some similarities with Rage 2's open world, in that as you clear out an area of special enemies, propaganda towers, side missions, marine squads in need of rescue and collectibles, there's nothing else to help fill the gap. So once all that stuff is done, all there is to do in them is run around looking for collectibles you might have missed, or run into random enemies that are just wandering about. So the cleared areas become all but dead with nothing to do except for the other addition.
Okay, that was awesome. Let's get moving. Hold, Marines.
The grappling hook. This thing is fan-friggin-tastic. It speeds up world traversal when you're scaling a mountain or don't have a vehicle on hand, and it's never not fun to use. It even adds some great versatility to combat where you feel like a god, whizzing towards a cowering grunt before introducing them to your divine fist. But that's not all. You can use it to get weapons from afar, grab explosives to throw, hijack enemy vehicles, or expedite a retreat. When it all clicks together, the grappling hook actually brings the gameplay close to the realm of another shooter that I loved, Doom Eternal. However, the grappling hook is but one of the game's various armor abilities. There are others, and they do have their uses, such as the recon pin or the overshield, but those are more situational and they're just not as fun to use. So when you get your hands on upgrade points, the smartest investments are to max out the grappling hook and your armor before even considering looking into maxing out the others. However, there is one thing that does bring the whole game down, and it was the reason why I was not able to finish the campaign before writing the script for this review. Infinite is not the most technically sound game. When I was capturing footage, the game regularly suffered from frame rate hiccups, stutters, pop-in, and 1 or 2 crashes. When I wasn't capturing footage, it was more stable, but these problems did still pop up, here and there. Regardless of when they plagued my play sessions, they were not never annoying and required me to sit and wait for the game to warm up. This is a sign that despite Infinite's delay, it really needed more work done to iron out these issues before release. What's more is that there are some signs that segments of the game were rushed. There are segments where there's just long stretches of nothing, in empty environments where there's nothing to do. Literally, and not to mention certain plot points come and go with little deliberation, build-up, or impact. These don't ruin the experience in its entirety, but if nothing else, it does show that despite their clear talent, 343 do need to work on their time management skills.
There we are! Almost done! Stop doing that! What's wrong with this? This is simpler. This will do.
Overall, I enjoyed my time with Halo Infinite. It is disappointing that it didn't get enough time to launch in an ideal state, but what's good makes it worth playing. In fact, I would describe Halo Infinite as being 3 things at once. A diamond in the rough, a good Halo game, but not the best, and potentially a modern classic. If it gets any updates that make it what it should have been at launch, so if you've been on the fence on whether or not to get this game, don't be. Drop those dollars, get the campaign, and be ready to have a rip-roaring good time that's also flawed. Alright, sweet. Hope you guys enjoyed this review. Sorry it's a little late. I've just been distracted by a bunch of other stuff, and I've also been trying to figure out what I'm going to be doing for my birthday, so a bit of birthday news there as well. Anyway, if you guys really enjoyed the video, feel free to also hit the like and subscribe buttons. Really help to get me some extra attention. And for the next game review, I haven't got anything planned just yet. I've got some stuff in my backlog I might take a look at, but then again, my attention's been drawn to Total War, Warhammer 3, and Elden Ring, so I might do those, but then again, I may not have the time to get them done for this month. Either way, time will tell. As for movie reviews, I'm actually changing the format on how those are done, just to help me get back into the spirit of doing those regularly again. I might go back to the old format, I might not, but for now, we'll see how this new format goes. And as for the first review done in this new format, it's going to be the new Nicolas Cage movie, Prisoners of the Ghostland. Anyway, I got all that more coming up, so please stick around.